Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Murray Briel.
And I'm Heidi Henry coming to you from our socially distant studios at the edge of the Great Red Divide. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. on Facebook Live, we bring the message of progressivism, the Democratic Party, and democracy across the chasm to try to help people understand what we are all about. We're not scary Democrats. We're forward-thinking people.
Speak for yourself.
Okay.
I'm a terrifying Democrat.
You can find all
I
of
have
our...
a vagina, I have a brain, and I have a voice, which makes me terrifying.
To some men, to the hairy bubbas, yeah. But you can find all of our previous episodes at heartlandmamas.com, on every podcast platform, YouTube if you want to see our goofy faces, and proudly carried as part of the Demcast USA network. So Murray, it's so exciting. We're 5 days out. 5 days out. 5 days out.
Exciting and exhausting.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I'm really, really tired, as we all are. The last 4 years has been an onslaught. You know, I was thinking about this last night. In any other election cycle, any other presidential term, like this Hunter Biden thing that isn't real, that Tucker Carlson said he had all the proof and it magically disappeared.
Oh, on DHL. So why do you think he threw DHL under the bus? That's just what I'm wondering.
The joy isn't related to DHL.
Well, that's exactly right. And if you were going to throw somebody under the bus, you could throw the incompetent, as they call it, USPS under the bus. But I say it's because DHL's leadership tends to be more democratic and less supportive of the president. Although, I tried to research that a little bit to find out why DHL? Why would we go after that company and not after UPS or FedEx? But instead, Tucker Carlson goes after a smaller company comparatively, not as small as Speedy Delivery, which is out by me, but a smaller company, and says that their incompetence lost the Hunter Biden stuff forever. So it must be some kind of Democratic plot from DHL to lose the stuff. Now, if this stuff was so important, if it really existed, wouldn't you send it by armed
courier it?
Yeah.
Or courier it. Why would you send it in, anyway? But my whole point about this was our news cycles are going to go back to quiet, this scandal for Hunter Biden will take up 3 years of the future Senate attempts to investigate it. One scandal where Trump had the advantage of having so many that the media cycle, the news cycle, can't catch on to any of them. The Senate and the House are too busy. There's too many to investigate. So that's one of the things that he's really had an advantage in, but that advantage is failing down ticket.
Right.
And that's what we're going to talk about today. The advantage of Trump, the disadvantage of having Trump at the top of the ticket, and the Senate seats that are in play, and how we think we're going to flip it. So today we're going to start off by going through our predictions for next Tuesday's Senate races.
Right.
And I'm really excited about this. Heidi and I did a series. If you want to go back and check it out, you can find all our previous episodes, Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com. You can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud. You can find us anywhere. And all of our past episodes, and we did a series called Ousting 8, the top 8 senators that we thought were going to drop. And we've added a few to our list, but let's start with our path. Shall we start in Maine, Miss Heidi?
Oh my gosh, because Maine is one of my favorite seats to retire the senator from.
Me too.
Well, and Sarah Gideon is going up against long-term serving Senator Susan Collins. And Susan Collins, when she mealy-mouthed her vote for Justice Kavanaugh, every woman with any self-respecting woman took up her Visa card, her MasterCard, whatever, and made a donation to an organization that was going to defeat Susan Collins. That was their whole thing, is we are collecting money to give to whoever wins the Democratic
A
primary.
lot of races have ended up that way
Right.
due to really poor choices,
Mm-hmm.
not listening to what constituents want and
Right.
following the partisan line.
Right.
We have seen that happen in several races. Look at Amy McGrath.
Well,
She made a fundraising explosion back in last year
right.
over one of McTurtle's crappy things.
Well,
So I think we see that a lot.
she had a huge fundraising. We'll talk about Kentucky in a minute, but she also had another huge fundraising draw after Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed. That was a total shit job by McConnell. And people, I mean, I sent her $500 that I didn't have, but I thought it's more important to beat this guy. Plus, I phone bank for her 4 hours a week, every week for the last, I think we're going on my 12th week for phone banking for Amy McGrath. But let's finish up with Susan Collins. Susan Collins wrote her own political obituary when she voted yes for Justice Kavanaugh after saying that she was not going to. And then when we did the impeachment hearings and she said Donald Trump had learned his lesson, I sent more money in to whoever was going to beat her. Because she's not Olympia Snow
for me.
She's not Olympia Snow, and she never has been. She always she always falls in line with whatever she's told to do with the Republican Party. Susan Collins has never operated her own mind in her entire career. Olympia Snow did, but Susan Collins is not her. So
my only concern is we all are pulling to get rid of Susan Collins.
Yeah.
Miss ride the fence, then take the wrong vote, Collins. And we want to see Sarah Gideon win. The only question is going to come down to ranked choice voting.
Right.
And how that all plays out as we go forward. I believe that Sarah Gideon is going to win that. And you claim that one too, right?
I'm pulling for Sarah Gideon. And the next one I'd like to go to is one of my favorite ones, races to watch, has been the Arizona race with Mark Kelly and Martha McSally. Let's talk a little bit about Martha McDark Money Sally. How much money can we take, dark money can we take from the energy sector, McSally? How many? How much? Just how much? Because what does it cost to buy your vote again and again and again? Well, we actually know these facts and figures now. And you put her up against American hero and astronaut, Mark Kelly. She hasn't got...
And remember, she had run in the state for a Senate seat. Mm-hmm. And lost.
Right.
Then there was a resignation, and the governor put her in, even after losing, much to the dismay. So she had lots of baggage coming into this.
She's got John McCain's seat.
And now Mark Kelly is resigning death. Sorry, it wasn't resigning. So now Mark Kelly is just going to sweep the floor with her because she's no McCain, never was, never will be. So I think we can safely call that race Mark Kelly, astronaut Mark Kelly.
Yeah, and it's McCain's shoes are difficult to fill. McSally didn't have a chance, but when we look at Mark Kelly, he has all the dynamics. He has all the dynamic personality and traits and disposition and beliefs that are so strong, just like McCain had. McCain was a Republican, not probably my favorite Republican, but not bad, In
the scheme of Republicans,
he was
especially
really
Republicans today, in this day and age,
yeah,
he's a freaking saint.
Yeah, right. He was the old guard Republican, He was the old guard Republican. And so what I was going to, the next one I'd like to bring up, so we're both calling Mark Kelly for the win, right? Right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's move on to Colorado. One of our favorite Trump morons, Cory Gardner.
Cory Gardner just needs to go away, and Hickenlooper is going to make that happen.
Yeah.
John Hickenlooper is beloved. He's a former governor. He made a great showing in a presidential campaign.
Yep.
He has the name recognition, he has the pull, he has the money. And remember, Republicans have no money.
No.
So they're not pumping money into races like McSally's,
Mm-mm.
like Gardner's.
Right.
They're putting their money into tighter races that they really didn't expect that there would be any sort of a challenge, including states like Texas
Right.
and Georgia
And Kansas, where they didn't think
and
that there'd be a
Kansas.
problem. But the thing with Cory Gardner, not only has he been a puppet and a pawn and a yes man for Trump, but he's facing off against John Hickenlooper, who helped stabilize the state's finances, the state of Colorado's finances. He changed really fundamental changes in marijuana legislation and in public health, where he provided free health care for women's reproductive issues and dropped the abortion rate through the floor. I mean,
And let's
how do you
think about this. That's
yeah.
Coloradans. That is sort of the essence. At least most of the folks I know from Colorado are independent. They're very
Yep.
environmentally focused. Even
Mm-hmm.
if they're Republican, they are far more progressive than what you would get as a Republican in Kansas
I think it's all that
or
fresh air and
Missouri.
beauty, that is Colorado.
Or
Because
it's the lack of oxygen to their brain from the altitude.
they are the Mile High City. They're in Denver, but you think about Colorado and you think about the more progressive measures and the heights they achieved under Hickenlooper. I mean, really, just the financials alone. What an amazing forward thinker, and don't we want that in the Senate coming up? I mean, all of us should be pulling for John
I gotta
Hickenlooper.
say,
Hickenlooper.
Looper is yeah, definitely on my list.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'd like to touch base on a less clear cut race,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Mississippi. So we have Cindy Hyde Smith, who I think is an abomination,
Yes.
and against Mark Espy.
This is going to be a really close race, Marie, and I'm going to say that this is one of what I call the shenanigan states, that there are so many shenanigans in voting rights, and that would be, Texas, Mississippi, North and South Carolina, Georgia, Kentucky, where the shenanigans are so bad that they could change the will of the people, right? They could prevent the will of the people from being served. And Cindy Hyde Smith is another Trump pawn. She is a total
She's
yes
awful.
person. She's terrible.
Worse. She's worse than Susan Collins.
Oh my God. Yes.
Well, no. Susan, they're
No.
all evil,
Yeah.
but she doesn't even pretend
No, she
to care
doesn't.
about anything.
No.
Oh, she's just horrible.
She's got just her nice little hyphenated name and no inkling of what it costs what it is to be just an average citizen of her state. She's never lived in that income bracket. She's never had to work for anything. She's never had to live the realities of 2 jobs, single parenting, lack of education. She's always had those doors unlocked and opened wide for her to walk through, and yet she'll slam it behind herself so nobody else can get through after her. That's the problem with Cindy Hyde Smith, is she doesn't leave room for anyone to breathe. There's no oxygen left in the room when she leaves, and she doesn't care what happens to anybody else, only about her.
Well, the good news is I think that voters are really seeing that. And I mean, her closing Q3 for this year was only $84,000.
For
The
a Senate
Democrats
race?
definitely have money for
Yeah.
a Senate race.
That's not
her
good.
Her Q3 closing. That's a sign that even in Mississippi,
Right.
we may see the tide turn.
And the other thing I noticed with her quarterly earnings report is that most of the money that came in for her did not come from within her state. Did you see that too? It was all special interest PACs and super PACs and unqualified super PACs that had donated to her much smaller amounts than they had in the past. But I think that's always very telling when your state senator is taking money in from other entities. They're not serving the interests of the people in your state. They're serving something else. And I think that's been a problem with Cindy Hyde Smith her entire career. It's just now it's out there for everyone to see. Now the internet has figured out a way to lay that out for everybody so you can see how your senator or your congressman or your governor, whatever, is being manipulated by outside forces. Just saying,
I know, girl.
Yeah.
Now, that brings us to another one that we all really want to see flip, but you and I split, and that's Kentucky.
I told you there's a couple candidates that don't live in my state that I phone bank for, and Amy McGrath against Mitch McConnell is one of them. Amy McGrath, I've sent a tremendous amount of money for me for not my state senator. I actually sent more to her this election cycle than I sent to Dick Durbin, who's got a fairly safe seat or very safe seat. And he's wildly popular here in Illinois, so we love Dick Durbin. And so we donate to Dick Durbin and we work for his campaign. But when it comes down to it, I see I despise Mitch McConnell so much that I spend 4 hours every week phone banking for Amy McGrath, and I've given her probably $900 or $1,000. I have to look, but I'm somewhere, and I'm not a person of means. I have to say that was my stimulus money that I got because Stan and I really didn't. We have secure jobs and stuff and retirement, so that money wasn't. It didn't. That's why my problem with the stimulus program is it didn't go to those that really needed it. It went to people like Stan and I that have no mortgage, that sort of thing. So I in turn gave it to Amy McGrath to try to beat McConnell, and I know it's an uphill, and I know it's shenanigans, but what do you think?
But you're still calling it for Amy, right?
Well, I'm going to say it's going to be really close, but in my heart, I want her to win. She had a really strong, a really tight race in her primary that kind of hurt her a little bit, but she is an American hero. She is the real deal. She's a little too centrist for me as a Democrat, but like I said,
it might play in Kentucky.
Yeah, that would play in Kentucky. Not here.
I gotta tell you, we were planning on doing a lot of work for her, but the pandemic nipped it in the bud.
We were
and
gonna
as
go down
much
and
as
walk
I
for
wish,
her. Yeah,
I am gonna say it's Mitch McConnell. Mitch wins Kentucky. He holds Kentucky.
I hate Mitch. So,
I know. But that brings us to one that we have delved into quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because for those of you who might be new listeners, Heidi and I have close relationships with all kinds of Democratic organizations across the Midwest. One of which is the Iowa Democrats, because one, we're close. Two, we went out and covered the caucuses. Three, we know lots of the leaders out there. And that brings us to who we despise, Joni Ernst. Joni, I'm a farm girl, but I'm really not a farm girl. I don't know the price of soybean sale. Joni Ernst.
Joni Ernst, the natural disaster of Iowa, and they have two of them, Joni Ernst and Kim Reynolds. And if we get past this pandemic to the other side, Murray and
King is pretty horrible.
King is horrible too. But Murray and I are definitely going to go out to Iowa and walk for whoever's running against Kim Reynolds for governor. She's got to go. But Joni Ernst she's horrible. We've been to Little Red Oak. It's a darling little city that rolls up its sidewalks at night. It's got a great coffee shop. It's got wonderful restaurants. We love Red Oak. I just feel sorry for them that they're
have Joni Ernst as one of their residents.
She's got to go.
Yeah.
The thing is,
and Teresa Greenfield has come on extremely strong. Yep. I think that the whole state of Iowa is going to go blue. Biden is going to win Iowa.
I think so too.
And Joni Ernst is going to be gone. She talk about queens of dark money.
Yes.
Joni Ernst has that flowing. The spigot never gets turned off of her dark money flow. And Iowans, remember, Iowa wasn't always red. No. Iowa was blue before.
Right.
And I think that they dipped their toe into the red water and said, hey, we are good human beings and we're genuine people, and we didn't like how this went. So I think that Iowa is going blue.
Just the lack of infrastructure alone that would have dredged the Missouri and fixed the dams and the locks along the Missouri, which, because there was never a Republican infrastructure bill, they would not let it pass. McConnell held it up under Obama, so it couldn't pass. It was held up completely under Trump for no reason except that he probably couldn't figure out how to profit from it. And the Missouri backed up and flooded out southwest Iowa and Nebraska, just flattened towns.
Oh, and remember when President Trump visited Iowa, he complained to the crowds about how coverage of derecho, which decimated their state, got more coverage than his nomination for a Nobel Peace Prize. So I think Iowans are like, fuck that bullshit.
Right. You know, Iowa is such an integral part. It's part of the heartbeat of America, if you will. I mean, I don't want to get too sappy here, but without Iowa, a lot of the world doesn't get fed, and the tariffs
Agreed.
The tariffs have really hurt them, and I can't wait for them to take a breath, turn blue, and get their infrastructure fixed, and let's get rid of these horrible tariffs.
So we need to hit Georgia. Georgia is very special.
Yes.
Georgia has a rule that if you do not win 50+% of the vote, then that goes into a runoff.
Right.
So let's say in the race with Loeffler and Warnock and Collins, all running in the special election that Kelly Loeffler was elected to, that one's going to be a runoff, pretty straight up. Nobody has more than like 35%.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Warnock and Collins in the runoff, and I'm going to say Warnock is going to pull it off because he'll be on the coattails of a huge blue tsunami.
And he won't have had any of the fallout from the blue taking over yet.
Right.
Oh, speaking of that, one of the things I find most telling about the GOP and the Republican National Convention is the fact that they have changed strategies. And it's been very quiet unless you live in certain states.
Right.
But the new strategy isn't, we're going to keep doing so much good for you. Their new campaign pitch, which has hit several of the senators we've talked about, is we need to keep the Senate red to be a firewall against Biden. They've given up even thinking Trump is going to win. And in those states, they've gone ahead and pushed the other way, which makes me excited.
It really is exciting. And I really think
that's a good sign for Democrats.
Yeah, that's a very good sign. You know, plus Trump has pulled out, he's pulled so many TV ads across the nation.
Trump is broke.
He is broke.
He's
broke
no money.
In every which way you can be a broke ass failed businessman.
He would be playing in multiple states right now. His fundraising is ridiculously small.
But he is
like everyone wants him gone. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of people that want other senators gone too.
Yeah. Yes.
Like Georgia, there's a second race in Georgia. In case anybody's not aware, there's a race in Georgia for the seat that is up.
Yeah.
And that is between David Perdue and Jon Ossoff. Anybody remember Jon Ossoff? He reminds me of the straight Mayo Pete. Like, they're very similar in their demeanor, in their personality, in the way they carry themselves. And I got to tell you, I love Mayor Pete way more now that he's off the campaign trail.
Right.
He took that humility, like I'm not all that, and turned it into this ferocious thing. I'd vote for him in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But here we go. Again, Georgia. Right now, the most recent polling has Jon Ossoff at 49 and
David Perdue
at 43. So there's a margin of error. Unfortunately, they have to reach over 50% in order to be declared a winner. So there's a chance that this race could end up in a special runoff in January too. So get out and vote, Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia, get out and vote. And that's another shenanigan state, you know. So I'd like to talk a little bit about Montana. I know everybody thinks Montana is red, but Montana has a beloved former governor running. Again, another one that put Montana's fiscal house in order, had an excellent showing in the presidential primary, you know, as far as being a good debater and great for conveying his philosophies. And that's Steve Bullock. And he is running against,
Steve Daines.
Oh, Steve Daines.
Steve versus Steve. Yeah. Battle of the Steves.
The Battle of the Steves. And this one's it's going to be a squeaker, but I really think that Bullock is going to pull it out because everybody loved him as governor. So, you know, we have a couple.
There you go.
We have 3 former governors that are running right now, SB and Hickenlooper and Steve Bullock. And I just think that they've already made great inroads to their states, and I think they've got good name recognition, and they went out on a good note. I just think that those are 3 that are going to pull it out. So
agreed.
Yeah.
So then we move on to Texas. This one's really hard.
Yes.
Okay, you have Cornyn, who Heidi and I had on the top of our most vulnerable list. And really and truly, statistically, he was at the vulnerable level.
Yes.
MJ Hager, I love her 1,000 times more than Amy McGrath. She's a badass. She's cool as hell. I love MJ.
Yep.
But again, we are in this really tight toss up, and depending on shenanigans, such as only one drop box for an entire county,
right.
that impacts the Democratic counties in the more urban areas. So Cornyn is popular and Trump is popular in the rural areas of Texas.
Right.
But any place that's an urban area, they want him gone. So this is going to be one to watch.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's going to depend on the amount of shenanigans. I'm going to go ahead and make a crazy prediction here.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say MJ wins.
I would love to see MJ win. I'd love to see Texas go back to its blue roots. It hasn't been blue, since Ann Richards, and I think they've realized how badly the wheels have come off the bus. And, people were arguing about...
And the more urban it becomes.
A lot of businesses from California have relocated to Texas because their employees cannot find housing. Affordable housing in California is it's just not possible in most areas. So some of the companies have decided to relocate to Texas because the weather patterns are very similar. And when you bring the California ideology into Texas, you change things drastically. And Texas has been its own worst enemy in a lot of ways. It's had to be to deal with the fact that you've got the old guard that's still pushing fossil fuels and the new guard that is one of the top renewable energy producers in the United States, in the world, one of the world leaders in renewable energy. And I think that as we go forward, they're going to realize that, advocating right now for fossil fuels is like advocating for the Pony Express to take over the mail system again. It's just not sustainable, and we have to look at sustainability.
Question.
Yeah.
Who do you think has a better chance of winning Texas, MJ or Biden?
Wow, that's really tough.
That's a tough one, right?
That is very tough. I think that it goes double blue. I think it goes to MJ and to Biden.
Ooh, all right. Well, let's talk South Carolina. So let's talk the Carolinas. South Carolina, you have Lindsey Graham. And Lindsey Graham, I hate them. Lindsey fainting couch, pearl clutching Graham.
Begging for money
and I
on
can't
national
stand
TV.
Lindsey Graham. I despise him.
Yes.
And to hear him begging for money, and it wasn't just the begging. All candidates say, please, I need your help to go. I need you to get in there. And no, this is what he does. They're out spending.
Oh, he wants to call for an investigation because
he's a whiny little bitch.
He really
How
is.
pathetic.
We need a federal investigation.
Bullshit. Lindsey Graham is going and Jamie Harrison's going to win.
And Jamie Harrison is another one I've done phone banking for. Not as much as I have for Amy McGrath, but I feel like he's far enough ahead that he doesn't need me from Illinois to phone bank for him.
Work.
Yeah, I love her too. So
then we go to North Carolina, which is tough. Heidi and I called Tom Tillis. We called North Carolina to flip before the primary.
Yeah.
We believe very strongly he's one of the least popular state senators.
Tom Tillis is a disaster.
Yet he's running against Cal Cunningham, and Cal Cunningham had a scandal break about him.
Yep.
And Cal Cunningham had this locked for months. Mm-hmm. But as the scandal broke, the polls started to shift, and it tightened the race quite a bit. He went into hiding. He had an inappropriate relationship. He cheated on his wife. In the olden days, Democrats would step down and leave. Now Democrats are like, screw you. What Republican hasn't cheated on their spouse? Let's just call it a day.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, the polls, most recently, he's come back. He's come out. And most recently, the polls are saying that people in North Carolina do not care about his personal issues or infidelity, which is a good sign. So I'm calling it for Cal.
Are you calling it for Cal? It's that one's going to be
I'm
really
calling it
close
for Cal.
because Tom Tillis is not above shenanigans, and North Carolina has also led the way. And that little those little southern states, those rebellious former Confederate states, are full of shenanigans and full of voter suppression. And I say it's going to be a very close race, but I would love to see Tom Tillis go. Although, he's not the only Democrat with Cunningham that's had Nebraska. I can't remember who's running in that race, but that was a pretty...
Nebraska is Ben Sass.
Okay.
Ben Sass is one of the Sass the ass.
Right.
I hate him. I would love to see him go.
Who is running against him?
He is running against Chris Janasek.
Okay, so Janasek had opened up a pretty good run against, against Ben Sass.
Closing the gap.
Until he also had a sex scandal. What is it, men? Zip your pants, zip your mouth, and still your fingers until after
When's the
the
last
election.
time I think we had a House Katie Hill, right?
Yes.
Had a scandal. Yep. But that's like one female scandal in how many?
Oh.
And guys have big mouths. So if they'd been screwing any powerful women, they'd have been talking about it everywhere.
Or they talk about wanting to screw powerful women. And it's like, can you just zip it for a little bit? That's why women need to be in charge.
So another one we have to think about here that was not in play, which is ridiculous, is Alaska. Who the hell?
Yeah.
Would have ever thought Alaska was in play? In fact, the RNC had to give Lisa Murkowski $1.6 million to Alaska.
It's not Murkowski's seat, though, that's up. Murkowski is up next time. It's the other senator.
It is. Oh, crap.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You're right.
Let me look it up.
Then why did they give her $1.6 million?
Did they give Murkowski money? No, they gave 1.6. The RNC gave 1.6 to the incumbent, not Murkowski, but the other one.
That's my fault. So we, sorry, not McCarthy, but Alaska is in play.
Yeah,
Dan I don't think Alaska's going to flip.
Dan Sullivan, he's the one that's Daniel Scott Sullivan, and is being.
Right.
But Murray, remember we talked about this in pre-show. He's going up against Dr. Al Gross, the orthopedic surgeon, generational Alaskan, who has fought the good fight for the Alaskan wilderness. He's more of a centrist Democrat, probably too centrist for you or I, but he's a doctor.
It might work in Alaska. You have to remember.
Yeah, I know.
Different states have different personalities.
Just like different races all over the place. We're not all the same. And but I think with him, he's got a chance.
Go ahead.
No, he's got a chance. And for Alaska,
I think.
And I wanted to say, Murray, I just gave money to the same organization. It's called She Wins, that is going to put money up against whoever goes up against Lisa Murkowski. And I'm telling you, if COVID is over, we're road tripping to Alaska, and we're going to walk for whoever that is.
Road trip, we're flying. I just found it just appears that planes have the safest place. They're safer than a grocery store if you're wearing a mask, because they have cabin filters that filter the particles out, which is surprising and very delightful too. Maybe I'll just fly around the country if it's safer than every place else. Maybe those private jets would come in handy right about now, like the one that Kardashian flew her friends to, which we aren't even going to talk about. All right, so we have a couple more. We have New Mexico, right?
Didn't we?
Tom Udall's a Democrat.
Yeah.
And he is not running again. It looks like Ben Lugan is going to win that one, which is great. Alabama, unfortunately, I think we're going to lose Alabama. We have Doug Jones versus Tommy Tuberville.
Tommy Tuberville is the Red Tide. He is the Crimson Tide. I'm sorry, not Red Tide, but the Crimson Tide. He is so tied to Alabama football that I just don't see how anybody could beat Tommy. Yeah, Tommy Tuberville. I mean, geez, Doug Jones, I feel really bad that that's the guy that they picked to run against you, because how can you beat that, right? If you're a college football person in Alabama, you do your whole identity. It's the Crimson Tide. Even, even Forrest Gump,
Right?
right?
All right.
And
So
Tommy
our
Tuberville was
final
in
one we
that.
need to hit on
Yeah.
here is we need to hit on Kansas. You mentioned it,
Well,
right?
Kansas has a very close race, and the thing with Kansas, Murray, is that when Stan and I we went out on our Great Red Divide tour, right? So we could talk to different places, and I spent a lot of time in Kansas. Kansas elected a Democratic governor because they did not take Medicaid expansion, and they were watching their small rural hospitals. And I always tell you, those hospitals are smaller than my indoor riding arena. They're smaller than the arena I ride my horses around in. They're so tiny. And it can take now, because they didn't take Medicaid expansion, so their small little rural hospital systems are closing left and right. They elected a Democratic governor to try to get Medicaid expansion. Their Republican House, upper and lower houses, did not pass that bill to be signed into law. It cannot be done by executive order. And the people of Kansas are watching their rural hospital systems close. There's one area of Kansas where you can drive up to 4 hours if you have a heart attack. You will die en route to the hospital. You will not survive it. There's other areas that don't, because there's no Medicaid expansion, don't have ambulances anymore. They have very few volunteers because they lack the educational skills. Once you get into western Kansas, where it is very vast, there is not a lot of resources. So they have got a very important Senate race coming up because and it's very close because of healthcare, because just below them is Texas, who has sent this legislation or this court case all the way up to the Supreme Court to overturn the ACA, which may happen just days after the election. We know there is nothing to replace it. Nothing at all. The Republicans have never come up with anything to replace it. Trump care was...
That's the best part.
Yeah. Well,
they
how many
had
years?
how many years and did nothing when they had all three branches.
Right.
They had the House, they had the Senate, and they had Donald Trump in the first 2
Listen.
years, and all those years spending repealing it in the House
Right.
and in the Senate. Guess what?
Yeah.
You guys didn't come up with
You didn't do
anything to
anything.
replace it. They never will.
Yeah.
Republicans are obstructionists.
Right.
Republicans don't want to do anything unless it makes them or their donors money.
Right.
Otherwise, it's all bad.
It's all bad. And,
So they block everything.
So Kansas is working to change. And I think they have a chance of taking at least the lower house back in Kansas and maybe getting some legislation passed to help people with medical issues. I don't know how, you and I both know from what's happened here in Illinois, where we've lost small hospitals in rural areas, that they don't reopen again. They put in like an elaborate ER and then have a helicopter standing by. That's what you get. And then they charge you, as the people of Streeter know, they charge you up the butt to fly you to wherever they're going to send you. And that helicopter ride is not usually covered by most insurances. It's not like everybody has great insurance like I have, where it would be covered.
Well, and hospital ambulance rides are not
very expensive.
Well,
so flying ambulances, even worse, So, Murray, I just see changes. And the thing that we have to talk about...
I see the Democrats pulling Kansas out.
Do you think so? I think that one's going to be super close.
I think they're going to pull it out.
My husband has relatives
in
Kansas.
My final prediction
overall
is that the Democrats will take back the House.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, the Democrats will take back the Senate.
Yeah.
We will win.
Yeah.
And we may only win because we will lose a seat. We're going to lose Doug Jones.
Right.
So we need 4 seats and then we'll have the tiebreaker. And I think it's very easy to pick up 4 seats.
I think we pick up 6.
Can end up 51-49.
Yeah. I think it'll be even more than that. I think we pick up 6 seats. Well, but then you have to remember there's 2 independents in the Senate as well.
I count them as independents.
Yeah. So
they caucus with the nuts.
Don't get me started. Don't even get me started on that path. We can do that and take, just never be committed on anything, can't we? You know who I'm looking at.
Yes. So I know. Oh, I know. So overall, the mamas are telling you that both Heidi and I predict that the Democrats will take back the Senate once everything has shaken out.
Yeah.
We have our picks. Listen to the show if you're just tuning in to find out who we picked. Then Tuesday is exciting because it's election day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our show for Tuesday is going to have Heidi and I's predictions for who wins
How many
and what
electoral
the other
votes?
one does when they lose.
Yeah. What we're going to also predict what happens when certain people lose. And and then on the following Thursday, next week, a week from today, we're going to talk about transition time, or we're going to talk about fleeing the country. I'm not really sure.
I'm out. I don't know. Nobody will let us in because our infections are out of
Right.
control. But dude, I'm so out.
Yeah. Did you see? Today I posted, and I'll post it to the Heartland Mamas page, the infection rate in this country versus the countries that surround us, and why we're not allowed to go anywhere. Our infection rate is ridiculously high. We are coming up with 500,000 positives a week right now, and it took us 6, 7 months to get to 500,000 positives.
Dr.
In the first
Fauci
place.
said we should be seeing that he anticipates over the next 2 weeks we'll be seeing about 100,000 cases a day.
Well,
in the United States.
Here's what's happened is we've heard the herd mentality phrase, which he means herd immunity, but Republicans have a herd mentality. That Trump has now decided herd immunity is the way to go, and we know in COVID that there's no such thing.
Nothing.
Yeah, he's done nothing. He's always had herd immunity as his fallback. The problem with herd immunity, ladies and gentlemen, is it kills off everybody over 65. That means you won't have to collect your Medicare, and you won't collect your Social Security.
There is no proof that immunity lasts.
We know
that while robust antibodies may exist for up to 4 months, it does not guarantee immunity. Right. Just like the common cold, there is no immunity from the coronavirus, which this virus is a cold virus.
It is.
Way more infectious, way more dangerous. There's no immunity. That's why we don't have vaccines for the cold. So to claim herd immunity would even work is a ridiculous concept.
It would kill millions.
On the ballot on Tuesday.
Yeah.
That is what is on the ballot on Tuesday.
Do you want to kill millions of people, all the elderly, all the infirm, all the disabled, all the poor, all the people of color? Because this is what it's going to take. And I say that's unacceptable. Completely unacceptable.
Agreed. And I think the American people are going to say it's unacceptable as well, because they are going to vote out a lot of those senators, and we're going to vote Joe Biden in, but that's just my prediction. So thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure, while you're anxiously waiting on Tuesday, biting your fingernails, waiting for results to come in, tune into the Heartland Mamas Tuesday at 2:00 p.m. for our final predictions for the states that will go Joe, the states that will go Trump, and what the hell's going to happen when Trump loses.
And find out if we predict if we'll know Tuesday night or if we won't know for weeks. I already know what I know. I don't know, but I know how I feel. And this is the last time I hope I have to ever wear this shirt. So
yay.
Yeah. Okay,
well,
everybody.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Be sure to find all of our previous episodes, subscribe, share. If you like us, if you tune into us, it helps us spread the word of progressivism across the Great Red Divide. Heidi, it's a pleasure. It was wonderful today. I think we did some pretty good predictions.
Yeah.
And you can find us at Heartland Mamas.
MAMAS.com, Demcast USA, every podcast platform, and find our goofy faces at YouTube. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Take care now. Bye-bye. Go vote!
Go vote!
Yes. Vote, vote, vote. No excuses. Unless you have COVID.